Let me start with a harsh truth most women are never told. When a man first looks at you, he doesn't see your soul, he sees your body. He doesn't feel connection right away, he feels chemistry. And if you mistake that spark for something deep, you might end up falling for someone who was never emotionally ready in the first place. In the early moments of attraction, many men aren't thinking about compatibility, the future, or love. They're caught in what I call the visual trap, a strong reaction based purely on physical desire. It's not evil, and it's not calculated. It's simply biology. But here's the important part. What happens after that is what separates lust from true love. This message will uncover something rarely spoken out loud. Most men don't fall in love through their hearts first. They fall with their eyes. And that space between visual attraction and emotional involvement is where so many relationships get off track. If you've ever felt confused after a man chased you intensely and then disappeared after things got physical, this message will help make sense of everything. It's not your fault. You didn't mess up. But you do need to understand how the male emotional timeline works. Because if you don't know how men form emotional bonds, you'll keep handing your heart to someone who only showed up for your body. Stay with me. Because once you understand why men experience desire before love and how to tell when love is actually developing, you'll never fall into the same emotional trap again. Let's begin. Most women are taught from a young age that love and desire go hand in hand. That when someone wants you physically, it means deeper feelings are beginning. But for many men, especially at the start, desire and emotion live in two completely separate areas. And if you don't understand that split, you'll read his signs wrong and end up hurt. When a man feels physical desire, it's fast, automatic, and intense. His biology is built to respond to what he sees. Your smile, the way you move, your expressions. That strong desire creates a rush, a momentary high that pushes him to act. But here's the key part no one really talks about. That desire can exist without any real emotional connection. A man can chase you, flatter you, make plans with you, even treat you like you're special, not because he loves you yet, but because the chase feels exciting. This is where many women start to feel emotionally connected and think he must care about me. But in reality, he might still be operating only from attraction and interest. Desire happens fast. Emotion takes time. Most men need shared time, trust, and emotional safety before their hearts even begin to open. That's why so many women feel emotionally abandoned after becoming physically close. It's not that the man lied. He may not have felt emotional closeness at all. He just hadn't formed that bond. He was never in love in the first place. And the hardest part? You may have been. Now, this doesn't mean men can't love deeply, far from it. But for many men, love happens after trust, respect, and emotional openness grow. These things aren't triggered by looks or sex. They're built in quiet, everyday moments. Men often don't even realize they're falling until they already are. It sneaks in gradually, while you're laughing together, sharing a meal, or just sitting in silence, fully present with each other. The hard part is that women often think that consistent attention means deep feeling. If he's calling, texting, and making time, he must be emotionally involved, right? But the truth is, a man can keep up those habits out of routine habit or even guilt, not necessarily love. That's why it's so important to slow things down. You need to give space for the relationship to show whether his desire can grow into something deeper. Here's something essential to remember. Men aren't always emotionally unavailable. Many are just emotionally slower. The timeline doesn't match. What you may feel after a few dates, he might not feel until much later. If you try to push emotions to appear before they're real, you'll confuse desire with devotion. And that's when the heartbreak happens. To guard your heart, you need to observe more than you invest. Watch how he behaves when he's not trying to impress you. Look for signs that he's interested in your thoughts, not just your body. That's where the truth lies. And once you learn how to see it, you won't mistake desire for love again. Lust isn't just a feeling, it's a chemical reaction. When a man feels a strong attraction, his brain gets flooded with chemicals that completely shift how he sees you. Lust can be so intense that it blocks his ability to really see who you are. He's not thinking about your dreams or depth. He's reacting to a chemical wave that says, I want her and I want her now. When lust kicks in, the brain releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to addiction. That's why a man in this stage may seem totally obsessed. He might message you constantly, chase you eagerly, and act like you're the only woman who exists. But what you're seeing is not true emotional bonding. It's his brain chasing the high of excitement and anticipation, not deep connection. During this time, testosterone also rises, making him more assertive, competitive, and bold. His body is reacting as if he's on a mission. But here's the tricky part. Lust is not designed to last. It's meant to create the initial bond, not to hold it together. Without emotional depth building underneath, the passion fades, and with it, so does his interest. For women, physical closeness often increases emotional attachment because of a hormone called oxytocin, also known as the love hormone. But for many men, oxytocin takes a back seat to dopamine and testosterone in the beginning. So while a woman may feel closer after intimacy, a man may simply feel satisfied or even more distant. This causes emotional confusion. One person feels connected, the other feels finished. This is why jumping into intimacy too soon can be risky for women who attach quickly, because it's not just your body that's involved, it's your brain chemistry too. Your body is signaling connection while his may still be focused on the physical experience alone. It doesn't make him a bad person. It means his emotions haven't caught up yet. Understanding this gap can help you avoid one of the biggest emotional pitfalls, thinking his strong desire means deep feelings. It doesn't. A man in lust may say things that sound like love, but they're just desire wearing a mask. He might believe his own words in that moment, but moments are short, and feelings change if they're not supported by something real. That's why you need to look beyond how a man behaves when he's turned on. Look at how he acts when there's nothing to gain. Does he care? Is he present? Does he stay consistent even when intimacy isn't part of the picture? This is one of the most heartbreaking parts of modern dating. A man pursues you, gives you attention, makes you feel special, and then after you sleep together, he changes. His messages slow down, the vibe shifts, he becomes cold, or he disappears, and you're left wondering, did I do something wrong? But here's the truth. It's often not about what you did, it's about how he handles closeness and what physical connection really meant to him. For many men, especially those not emotionally prepared, intimacy is the destination, not a meaningful step in a relationship. That moment of being close is the end goal, not the beginning of something deeper. And because men are biologically set up to chase what they want, once they get it, their brains shift. The excitement is over, the mystery is gone, and the chemicals settle. If no emotional connection was growing underneath, he doesn't feel a reason to stay. What kept him interested was the chase, not the person. And here's something even more painful. Physical closeness can actually trigger emotional avoidance in men who fear being vulnerable. These are men who want connection but panic when it feels real. Being intimate, especially if it was meaningful to you, may have opened up a depth they weren't ready for. So instead of getting closer, they run. They make excuses. They vanish. They back away. to feel in control again. It's not that you were too much. It's that they weren't equipped to meet you at the emotional depth you were ready for. And yes, sometimes the truth is even harsher. Some men are just pretending. They act emotionally available, say all the right words, show just enough effort to make you believe, and then leave once they get what they want. In those cases, it's not about fear or feelings, it's about manipulation. And sadly, many women end up blaming themselves for the vanishing act, when it was never about love. It was about performance. This is why taking your time matters. It's not a game. It's about letting truth come to the surface. The longer you wait, the more honest his intentions become. A man who is emotionally aligned with you will not vanish after getting close. He will become more caring, more steady, and more emotionally clear. He won't act strange. He won't disappear. He won't run. And if he does vanish, let him. That is your answer. His disappearance is your closure. Don't beg for explanations from someone who already showed you with his actions that he wasn't willing to build something real. Guard your heart by letting his silence speak louder than your wish to fix it. And if you've gone through this, no, it doesn't say anything about your worth. You are not too emotional. You are not too deep or too much. You were simply dealing with someone who wasn't ready for the kind of love you were offering. Let that be his weight to carry, not your embarrassment. Because real men, emotionally stable, relationship-ready men, don't vanish after things get close. They lean in. They ask deeper questions. They want to understand you, grow beside you, and be there for you. Intimacy doesn't scare them. It draws them in. So the next time someone pulls away after getting what they wanted, don't see it as a defeat. See it as a filter. That moment exposed who he truly was. And in that truth, you are now one step closer to someone who won't disappear. But it's easy to get swept up in the attention, the warmth, and the spark of someone new. If you're not cautious, you could fall for a man who was never aiming for love. He was in it for the excitement, the ease, or the ego boost. The important thing is spotting the red flags before your heart becomes too attached. Because men who aren't in it for love often act like they are until they no longer benefit. The first red flag is lack of consistency. He may come on strong early, sending lots of messages, giving compliments, even making plans, but his efforts come and go. One week he's all in, the next he's distant or unavailable. You never really know where you stand, and you're always left uncertain. That back and forth isn't by accident. Often, it means he's keeping his choices open or only engaging when it suits him. Another warning sign is a shallow connection. If most of your talks stay around flirting, looks, or light jokes, but rarely go deeper into your values, goals, fears, or emotional wants, he probably isn't investing deeply. A man who's serious about love wants to understand you. He's interested in your mind, not just your looks. If things always stay on the surface, his intentions likely do too. Also, pay close attention to how he reacts when you set limits. A man who truly respects you won't push you, guilt you, or make you feel wrong for putting up emotional or physical boundaries. But someone who's only chasing what he can get will often test those boundaries in quiet ways. He'll act let down. He might pull away a little. He might even question you in ways that make you doubt yourself. That isn't love. It's control masked as charm. Then there's the way he talks. Listen to how he speaks about commitment. If he avoids specifics, says things like, "Let's just see where this goes," or "I'm not ready for anything serious," walk away. Don't stick around hoping he'll change his mind. Those aren't throwaway lines. They're quiet warnings. He's telling you in advance not to expect much. And when someone says they're not ready, the worst move is trying to convince them you're worth staying for. Another big sign. You feel anxious more often than secure. When you're with someone who genuinely cares, there's a calmness, even when things aren't certain. But if you constantly feel like you're decoding his messages, worrying if you're too much, or walking on edge to keep his interest, that's your inner self trying to get your attention. Real love doesn't put you in emotional chaos. Lust can, manipulation can, but love brings steadiness. Men who aren't looking for love will also show you what they prioritize. If he only calls late at night, avoids planning ahead, or keeps you far from his inner circle, like his friends, family, or goals, he's keeping you in a box. You're not a commitment, you're a convenience. And the more you allow it, the more you teach him he doesn't need to offer more to keep access to you. You don't have to wait for a man to walk away to know he's not in it for real love. The clues are always there. You just have to be bold enough to see them. Love doesn't leave you questioning your worth. It doesn't make you feel small. If he's not showing up with honesty, presence, and respect, then he's not really showing up at all. Many connections start with attraction. That's normal. But love is what those early sparks should grow into. And while lots of men begin with a physical pull, lust can turn into love if the emotional environment is right. The hard part is knowing when that shift is actually taking place and when it's just another version of surface desire pretending to go deeper. So how can you tell when lust starts becoming something real? It begins with emotional interest. A man driven by lust wants your body. A man growing into love wants your world. He begins asking questions beyond how was your day? He wants to know what scares you, what keeps you up at night, what drives you to get up in the morning. He listens not just to reply, but to truly understand. He starts noticing the small things, not just what's attractive, but what's true, how you react under pressure, how you talk about your past, how you handle difficult feelings. That kind of focus isn't random. It's the start of a real connection. You'll also start to see that the rush begins to fade. In its place is patience. Lust is in a hurry. It wants fast. It thrives on energy and excitement. But love is steadier. It doesn't push you into quick intimacy or try to fast forward the connection to keep the thrill alive. A man whose interest is shifting into something deeper will make space for you to feel at ease. He's no longer chasing excitement. He's building reliability. Another sign is his presence without needing to perform. In the early days of lust, a man might come across as overly charming, intense, even dramatic. But when real feelings emerge, that act fades. He becomes more real, more steady. He's there for you even when it's not easy. He's emotionally supportive when you're hurting, not just when you're happy or attractive. He doesn't need everything to be perfect to want to be close. Real love also opens the door to vulnerability. When a man starts revealing the parts of himself that aren't polished, his worries, his past faults, his doubts, it's a strong signal that the connection has gone deeper. Lust hides behind pride. Love allows truth. He's no longer worried about how you view him. He wants you to see him as he really is. That level of emotional openness doesn't happen when someone just wants pleasure. It happens when they feel emotionally safe, truly connected, and drawn to who you are inside. You'll also find that your importance to him grows. You're not just someone he finds attractive. You become someone he values deeply. He brings you into his choices. He asks for your views. He begins to imagine you as part of his future. not just part of his moment. You're no longer a distraction. You're a priority. Maybe the clearest proof that lust is growing into love is this. He's not afraid to slow down. When a man starts caring deeply, he begins to protect the bond. He doesn't want to ruin it by rushing through it. He's more thoughtful. He realizes your heart is in his care, and he handles it with more awareness. That kind of man doesn't run when things become serious. He stays close. He doesn't freeze when emotions grow. He embraces them. And here's what's truly beautiful. Love that begins in desire doesn't have to be shallow. It can grow into something powerful, something lasting, but only if both people are emotionally ready, honest, and willing to grow slowly. So yes, desire can become love, but only when it's met with patience, emotional depth, and a man who wants to feel deeply, not just react quickly. That's when passion becomes peace. That's when craving becomes care. When a man is emotionally ready, it shows. Not just in his words, but in how he shows up day to day. You won't have to overthink everything, try to decode his moods, or wonder where you stand. Emotionally mature men don't play with your heart. They bring clarity, not confusion. And once you know what signs to look for, you'll stop settling for potential and start expecting presence. Emotionally mature men speak with meaning. They don't hide behind fuzzy statements or use games to keep you chasing. Instead, they're open, even if their truth isn't perfect. You'll hear things like, "I really enjoy spending time with you and want to explore where this can lead." Or, "I'm looking for something real, not just a casual thing." They're clear about what they want, not to impress you, but to honor you. They also show emotion, even when it's uncomfortable, because they know open conversation builds trust. And their actions? They match their words. A man who says, "I miss you," doesn't disappear afterward. He shows up. He keeps promises. He doesn't feed you dreams just to keep your feelings hooked. If he says he'll call, he does. If he says he wants to see you, he makes it happen. Not because he's trying to win, but because consistency shows he cares. A huge sign of maturity is how he deals with problems. Immature men avoid conflict, get defensive, or shift blame to escape being accountable. But a mature man sees challenges as part of closeness. So instead of shutting you down when you raise an issue, he listens. He says things like, "Let's work through it," or "I didn't realize that hurt you. Help me understand." He's not focused on being right. He's focused on being right with you. Mature men also don't carry emotional wounds into every relationship unchecked. They don't paint all their exes as villains, dodge hard conversations, or play the victim in every story. They've done the healing. They know where they struggle, and they talk about it honestly. You'll hear them say things like, "I used to hide from vulnerability, but now I'm learning to show up more." Or, "I've made errors in my past relationships, and what I've learned is that self-awareness is rare, but it's also necessary for real love." What emotionally mature men don't do is lead with their ego. They don't feel the need to dominate conversations, control the dynamic, or prove their value by trying to impress you. Instead, they create room for you to be seen and heard. They ask meaningful questions. They appreciate your independence. They're not threatened by your strength. They're drawn to it. And rather than shrinking you so they can feel important, they lift you up because they're secure in themselves. Even in closeness, emotionally mature men are tuned in. They care about emotional connection, not just physical satisfaction. They'll check in. They'll ask, "What makes you feel comfortable?" They'll listen because to them, real closeness isn't just about attraction. It's about trust. But maybe the biggest sign of true emotional maturity is this. You feel safe, not only physically, but emotionally. You're not tiptoeing around their moods. You don't feel like you're too much, too open, or too difficult. You feel valued, supported, and respected. Emotionally mature men aren't perfect, but they are present. They take responsibility, they talk honestly, and they're not scared of love. They're ready for it. So if you find yourself always seeking clarity, trying to fix confusing signals, or making yourself smaller just to keep peace, that's not love, that's emotional immaturity. And you deserve far more than that. You deserve someone who makes love feel like peace, not like a battlefield. Drawing love, not just desire, starts with knowing your own energy, because whether you see it or not, you're always showing people how to treat you by what you allow, what you go along with, and what you believe you're worthy of. If you keep meeting men who only want one thing, it might be time to shift. Not only your boundaries, but the energy you're giving off. Lust is easy. It thrives on surface attraction, short-term chemistry, and quick satisfaction. Love is something else. Love needs depth. Love takes intention. And the men who are looking for real connection pay attention to completely different things than those chasing a quick moment. So if you're seeking love, you must become magnetic.